welcome to Thriving Rockstar with Alex Drake, and today's guest is Austin Lucas. How are you, Austin?
I'm really good. How are you doing?
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. I noticed a few, peculiar things when I ran into your page that I was like, I need to talk to this guy.
Like what? What is that exactly?
Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, like I'm interested in like musicians who are sort of, very multifaceted and caring about their health and like, just generally aware of those kinds of things and health and business, essentially. I noticed Muay Thai.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I've spent a good amount of time in Thailand. I'm going for the 5th time in October. So
cool.
Yeah.
Do you train or you just like to go to Thailand?
I train when I'm there, but not Muay Thai. I've been thinking about it. Tell me about
well, you
that.
should. That's definitely the place. If you want to do it, that's it is the home of Muay Thai. It's their national sport.
Right.
They invented it. So I've been there to train myself. I was in Bangkok at a boxing camp for a month.
Wow.
That was the first vacation I'd had in a decade. So that was pretty interesting. A lot of my friends kind of like laughed a lot because they were like, you haven't been on a vacation in a decade and you're going to like sweat your ass off and like get shouted at by like, Thai coaches, you know what I mean? Like, and get beaten up for a month. And I was like, yep. And they were like, okay, cool. Good for you.
Okay, so let's backtrack. How did we get there?
So 5.5 years ago, I was really unhealthy. I was sick. I weighed about 270 or plus pounds, I had been trying to lose weight for a while, but unsuccessfully because I was a heavy smoker and a heavy drinker. And, basically like a night out drinking would derail all the progress that I made, like in a week, because I would go out drinking. At the end of the night, I would eat whatever I felt like eating. And then I would wake up in the morning hungover, and then I would eat whatever I felt like eating, And then on top of it, I realized that I was getting catastrophically depressed after nights out drinking. And so I would basically become virtually suicidal for a period of time after being out drinking. And this happened basically like once I realized it after I quit smoking, because first I was like, I have to quit smoking. I'm a singer. I've been smoking for 17 years at the time. I've been smoking for 17 years. And I was just like, I've been sick. I'm sick so often, like I had 3 years where I had chronic strep throat. And like, I just was tired of it, like I was tired of it. And this one day I was really sick. I had like a crazy infection, like in fever, and I was like hacking up blood and like, and I was just like, okay, I was like, that's it. I'm done. And so I quit smoking. I came to find out that nicotine, it's an antidepressant and it's a stimulant. And so I had all these receptors in my brain that were used to taking in this, like this stimulant, and it had been regulating a lot of my like issues with depression and anxiety without me knowing it. Of course, it wasn't the end all be all, but it was helping. And once it was gone, it was just like I hit rock bottom, and became really, 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 anxious and depressed. And a night out drinking would bring me even further to the point where, like I was really starting to contemplate some dark shit. Wow. So basically, I had to make a change. And so I started exercising and, and at first I didn't realize, that drinking was doing it. I just like, was like, I don't feel too good after I'm done drinking. I just won't drink very often. And so I didn't drink, but maybe like once every month or 2 months or whatever. And then once I was not drinking, like at that point I realized, holy shit, every time I drink, this happens. like, so I was able to go, okay, I'm done with that. So I just completely stopped drinking, and I didn't drink for 4+ years. And like, and throughout that, I just was getting healthy. And one day, a bandmate of mine was like, hey man, like, why don't you come and check out this kickboxing class with me? I know you're like, you've plateaued, you're not losing weight like you want to, and you've been working really hard. Like, check this out, like maybe this will jumpstart your, like, you know what I mean? Like your metabolism. And I was like, okay. And I did. And I loved it. And so at first I was going once a week, and then I was going twice a week, and then I was going 3 times, 4 times. Then I was going twice a day. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and then I was like, man, I really want to get a lot better. How do I get a lot better? I'm going to go to Thailand.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And it's, like what you mentioned, when you were like far enough away from the drinking, like when it was like few and far in between, then you really seen the effects of it over the next few days.
Yeah. It would be like 3 days where I would be like catastrophically depressed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's not worth it.
No.
Like there's nothing, whatever, like, loosening of social anxiety I'm getting by like drinking, you know what I mean? Like it's not worth the, like, the uptick in it for the next several days that I have, that it's like making me really have a hard time.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
People don't realize how certain things can have an effect on your body that has a delayed reaction or like for several days. And if you're in it, you can't really tell, like you're in that cloud. And you can only tell when you're out of it long enough. The same thing comes for like food sensitivity. Some people think that they're, some certain foods don't work with them, or they aren't aware that certain foods don't work with them until they do an elimination diet, which kind of like you'll see like certain foods have a reaction like 3-4 days later.
Right.
Instead of later the same day. So it's good to know yourself on that level. So you lost a lot of weight over this period of time.
Yes, yeah. I lost 100. Well, at my lightest, like when I competed, I've had 2 fights. My last fight I fought like at my normal weight, like walking around weight. But like my fight before that was at the TBA Nationals in Iowa, and that was in June, and I weighed in at 145 pounds. Wow. So if at my lightest, like right now I'm walking around like 159, 160 or whatever, but like at my lightest, at that moment, I had technically lost like 130 pounds.
It's insane.
So, yeah.
That's a person.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, my girlfriend weighs substantially less than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty insane. So, I'm curious, like, how all of that worked around tour life, because you're a musician. And how that all kind of weaved itself around that. Like, were you active at this time, like touring around and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I at first I would like lose a bunch of weight off of the road, go on tour and gain some of it back. It's like this has basically been how it's been even now. Like I'll go on tour and like, I'll like even now I'll exercise like 2-3 times a week at least, sometimes more. But I'm still just like eating whatever I feel like eating, like, because I've found that on tour, when you tour at the level that I'm on, like that I tour at, like there's very few comforts, right? Like we tour in a van, you know what I mean? Like, and it's great. And it's a comfortable van, but we stay at people's houses, you know what I mean? Like, and like, sometimes you're cold and sometimes you're too hot. And like, like one of the few things that you get is that like food, you know what I mean? Like that comfort is like that access to food. So I try my best not to beat myself up over like, you know what I mean? Like eating some extra calories every day, and eating some stuff that's like not super healthy, because, you know, I also do exercise, and, you know, I try to counteract that by like eating, you know, salad several times a week, and, you know, like trying to keep my, like, you know, not only eating junk is what I'm saying.
Right.
You know, but on the other hand, brings me back to my point, I would lose like 20 or 30 pounds and go on tour and gain back 15. You know what I mean? Like, and then I would lose another 20 and like go on tour and gain back 6. You know what I mean? Like, and there's just like this, like, you know what I mean? Like this, like sort of process that like took me 5 years, you know what I mean? Like to really like get down to like the weight that I'm at now, which is a very manageable and like normal weight for my body type.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like my size, because my frame, I always thought I was a big guy. Like I always thought that I had really broad shoulders and that I had like, you know what I mean? Like that I was just like, you know, big, but it turns out that I was overweight or obese like almost my entire life. And it wasn't until I became like really obese that I was like, well, hell, you know what I mean? Like this is uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, like, so, and of course, like, you know, I don't think that there's anything wrong with being overweight. I think that people make the decisions that they make in life, and that they have the right to make those decisions. And I don't like turn up my nose at those decisions, you know, like I think that if you're comfortable and you're happy, you know what I mean? Like then you have every right to occupy whatever body type it is that you occupy, you know, like that being said, if you're not happy and, you know, like you wish that you could lose weight, you wish you could get healthy, you wish you could get fit, like, you know, I would encourage you to do that. You know what I mean? Like, because I think that people should do the things that make them happy. Also, if you're not ready yet, that's also okay. You know what I mean? Like, I always try to tell people, because people ask me about fitness all the time. My fans are always asking me how I lost the weight. You know what I mean? Like how I keep it off. What, you know what I mean? Like, what's your secret? What's your secret? And I always tell them like hard work and, you know, like moderation of diet. You know what I mean? Like
the boring stuff, right?
it's like the secret is that I put out more calories than I take in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like unless I'm trying to gain muscle mass, in which case I bring in more calories than I'm putting out. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you know, like there's like it's a pretty simple equation. A lot of people don't realize that. And of course, unless you like have like some sort of glandular, like, you know what I mean? Like disorder, you know what I mean? Like it's going to be pretty much the same for most people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like where you just have to you have to, you know, like burn more calories than you bring in. And if you want to gain weight, like i.e. muscle mass, you've got to lift and you've got to eat a bunch of protein. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just like, you know, that's going to be a basic rule of thumb, you know, like all across the board. Now, that being said, I always tell them, I'm like, don't beat yourself up. You know what I mean? Like for eating ice cream, like, you know, one day, or, you know, like deciding that you need to smash a whole pizza. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like the idea is like make good decisions more often. You know what I mean? Like then, you know what I mean? Like then less often. It's not about, you know what I mean? Like it's not about being perfect. You know what I mean? Like it's not about not eating things that you like. It's about like moderating them. Right. You know what I mean? It's about like, you know, making an intelligent plan, you know what I mean? Like on how you decide to like eat and how you decide to exercise and all that stuff.
Right.
And I always say like, do the thing that is nice to you. And even if the only thing that you can do is not beat yourself up because you like had a cheat, like a day where you didn't care and you ate like whatever you felt like eating. You know what I mean? Like, or because you ate a whole bag of Doritos, like who cares? Don't beat yourself up. It's fine. Tomorrow's a new day.
Right. I think it's important to be honest with yourself, you know, and just to feel out what you are, you know, where you're at, you know. So like if you're always beating yourself up, that's not good either, because psychologically that's not good, and you'll be stressed out, and cortisol isn't your friend.
No, it's gonna make you stress eat more.
Exactly.
It's gonna make you do the things that are bad for you more often. And of course, you say like the things that are bad for you, like I just mean like binge eating, binge drinking, you know what I mean? Like binge drug use, you know what I mean? Like these things, like, you know, not getting enough activity, like, you know, those things are bad for you. They're also can be good for you.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like nobody, like I was just talking about this with my best friend Colin. We were lifting weights earlier today, and we were talking about how like difficult it is to maintain a type of certain amounts of muscle mass.
Yeah.
You know, like bodybuilders, you know, like you get to a certain point and like you lose so much of it so quickly. It's like you've got to continually eat like crazy amounts of calories. You got to continually, you know what I mean, like be pushing your body further and further, you know what I mean, like to be able to do that stuff. And it's not like, you know what I mean? Like it's not maintainable. Like a lot of people look at bodybuilders and they look at models and stuff and they're like, how do they do that? You know what I mean? Like, how is it that they look like that? And it's like, that's their full-time job.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it takes a fuck of a lot of effort and it's not maintainable for a normal person. You know, like it's not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You know, one thing I find, so all these dietary tips and tools, I find them like, well, just like that, like tools, right? So some people can find certain things like, well, over the years, you know, I've dieted and exercised in all different ways and included like fasting and various styles of training and stuff, and just realized they all have their place. Right. And also being honest with myself, I think, you know, learning how to take that stuff, learning how to apply it to your own life, right, in a way that's just, it's constructive and it's going to keep you healthy and keep you in the shape that you want to be in within reason. You know, you don't have to be like a fitness model, right, all year round. You have to be healthy enough in this context to be a musician and to sustain your career and to mitigate any kind of major health issues, right? But I mean, having a healthy, self-accepting body image is very important, right? And just accepting where you're at. If you're overweight, accept that you're overweight. You have to be real with yourself, and then and see, okay, what I'm doing is keeping me here, or, you know, this is what I would have to do to get out of it. But to be okay with where you're at regardless, right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're not going to change the stuff in a moment. You just have to be where you're at and just accept the road ahead. You know, some people, they just kind of like, they jump into things. They're like, oh my God, I need to lose like 50 pounds in a month. No, I mean, this is if you take on the lifestyle changes, you know, and you just learn, because this is a education process. Unfortunately, in this country and in the world, you know, we're still sort of working to understand how our bodies function. And, you know, we're inundated with all this food and with all this, like, you know, I mean, you could make the case of like, oh, companies are trying to, you know, make us fat and dependent on their stuff. But it's really just a matter of like, you know, we're at a point where we haven't quite figured things out yet, as far as like having, you know, the foods and all these things that we like, you know, that are important culturally, right? Because like when we go out to eat, when we go and hang out with friends, it's like we're going out to eat or even drink and things like that. And we also want to be like healthy and live long and stuff like that. So just figuring out
the happy medium.
Yeah, happy medium, and how
but
that stuff works.
But I would say that, like, you know, it is true that like people market their products and like they want you to buy as many of their products as possible.
Oh yeah.
Like, but you know, the real crime, in my opinion, is just the amount of special interest money. You know what I mean? Like there is like allowing people to market, you know what I mean? Like these sorts of things in the way that they do. I mean, like even like altering the food pyramid, you know what I mean? Like to suit, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's real, you know what I mean? Like they like went in and they, you know what I mean? Like they paid money to have the government be like, yep, that's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's
lobbying,
and, you know, like, and lobbying is, in my opinion, it should be totally criminal. Yeah, you know, like, I mean, like there's no reason for us to allow, you know, like the decisions that are being made on Capitol Hill or anywhere else in any government to be based upon like what companies want to sell us. Right.
I mean, but, you know, to steel man the opposition, I would say that there's like, you don't want the government to have like just final say in this. Like you do want people to be able to sort of influence that, but the problem is like, you know, it's like if your company has more money and you could just keep lobbying and You know what I'm saying? Like no one's in the government.
I mean,
like ultimately,
I think that decisions should be made based off of data.
Yes.
And science.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And if the data is there, you know what I mean? Like saying that this is a thing, you know what I mean? Like then we have to act on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you've got extensive peer reviewed data, right. You know what I mean? Like it's like the issue of climate change. You know what I mean? Like it's there. You know what I mean? Like all of the peer reviewed data is enormous. You know what I mean? Like it's been being gathered for decades. You know what I mean? Like it's not arguable. It's fucking scientific fact. It's time to do something about it. Like it's the same thing with with smoking. It's like I'm not saying that people shouldn't smoke. Right. You know what I mean? Like but they need to know the hazards of it. Right. You can't allow for years the tobacco corporation had their own sponsored, tobacco corporations had their own sponsored medical, you know what I mean? Their own scientific studies and stuff like that. Doctors who said whatever they paid them to say, that should be fucking illegal. You know what I mean? Like, it's it should be there should be, the opportunity for many different studies to, to be made. But it's if 99% of all studies are going towards, this, and there are hundreds of studies. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like going towards this and they're all finding this same thing out. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're coming to a similar conclusion. Then it's time to just be like, dude, look, it's carcinogenic. It causes cancer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that we should tell anybody what to do or what, you know what I mean? Like what to put in their bodies, but we should at least, you know what I mean? Like not be marketing it to kids. And we should you know what I mean? Like admit that this is a problem and these companies should have these products should be taxed higher if they're going to be, you know what I mean? If we're going to have a system of government where we have taxes and we have this kind of stuff, these kinds of things need to be taxed higher. The kind of companies that put forth products that are harmful to the environment and harmful to people and stuff like that, they need to pay a higher tax. And unfortunately that's also going to get passed on to the consumer, and that's just a fact.
One issue I think is that, studies are mostly funded by companies with interest in those studies coming out to promote whatever they're doing, right? And not unbiased, right? And the problem is that the government doesn't do enough of its own studies that are not biased or trying to feed some special interest. So if the government, for example, or if there was maybe a budget for doing studies that just kind of find out the truth of things without any interest, or the interest in public health. That would be a very beneficial fiscal budget, right? That'd be something,
societally it would be, yes. It would be a very, 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 it would be a very beneficial expenditure of money. But I do think that priorities, in my opinion, that should be a priority, in my personal opinion, I don't want to necessarily get into politics or whatever. Sure. But I will say that if there's going to be a government, and they're going to do things, the things that they need to do are things that are in the best interest of public health and public safety. Right. You know what I mean? In my opinion, if there's going to be a government, they need to be providing oversight. You know what I mean? And they need to be representative of people that are actually in their society, you know what I mean? And making sure that that people are being taken care of and that people aren't being taken advantage of, you know what I mean? And whatever they can do to ensure that those things are happening and that people are making informed choices. And that includes educating people, making sure that we don't have a bunch of dumbasses, walking around, because there are people with higher and lower IQs, in the world. There are people who have different capacities, brain capacities, different capacities for learning, different capacities for understanding information that they're given. You know what I mean? But most human beings, when, you know what I mean? Presented with scientific facts from the time that they're born, you know what I mean? Over rhetoric and over you know what I mean? Theological, you know what I mean? Hyperbole. Yeah. You know what I mean? They will respond to it and be able to make better, more informed decisions. And if you want evidence of that, look at Scandinavia and look at Western Europe and tell me that that's not true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and you know, like, I think that that's pretty much about all that needs to be said on that subject.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. And I mean, like, yeah, we need to hope that, you know, that's heading in that direction. You know, it's interesting just to kind of like put a cap. You know, Tulsi Gabbard?
I mean, yeah, I know who Tulsi Gabbard is. Yeah.
And so she's campaigning with like taking down Monsanto and stuff, and like actually talking about health, and she's into fitness herself. And so that's, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I hope she kind of keeps ahead in that race. But, you know, unfortunately, I don't know if it reaches enough people, and let's just hope that pans out in the way it should. But until then, I think everyone as an individual needs to find their own place in all of that, and sort of, and be educated, because honestly, we live in the information age, and we have so much access to this stuff, and there is a lot of nonsense and marketed kind of stuff, even around positive movements health-wise. There's still so much people just trying to sell their product and whatnot. But I think bio-individuality is something that's going to come into play in the next like decade or two, you know, where people are going to understand their bodies and how they hormonally respond to things, and like what's good for them as an individual, right? That's what I look forward to. I look forward to a time when, you know, you can clearly understand whatever you consume and what effect that will have on you. A better kind of, you know, because personally, I count calories. I'm on a program, you know, where I'm just like very strict on macros and things like that. And I can see the changes, you know, and I observe those things. Most people aren't mindful of these things. But it'd be great, not for vain reasons to like, you know, look a certain way, but just to be healthy and just to be like, to take care of yourself, you know, so you can do what you love to do for as long as possible. And that, like, what, you know, what does your diet look like? What do you generally eat, and how has that changed over time?
You know, I usually I eat complex carbohydrates, you know, like, I always have like, you know, some amount of like, you know, quinoa, brown rice, you know, lentils, you know, I like to, if possible, have like a complex carbohydrate that includes some amount of protein, you know, like, and fiber and stuff like that. And, I don't eat a lot of like, refined, you know what I mean? Like, carbohydrates, or a lot of like, you know, white rice or anything like that. I eat a lot of sprouted wheat bread, and high protein, high veg, you know, stuff. I mean, honestly, like, it really depends on where I'm at right now, you know, like, or at the moment, you know, like what I'm trying to do. Like when I'm in the midst of like, you know, training for a fight, you know, like, am I trying to lose weight? Am I trying to gain muscle mass? Like, what is it that I'm like going for at that particular moment? So when you talk about diet, I would have to say that like my diet looks like whatever it is that I'm in the midst of doing at that particular, you know, time frame. So yeah, that's like, but it varies. I mean, I would say that I'm a basic, you know, like sort of like health person, and that like I count calories, you know, like I pay attention to eating whole foods, you know what I mean? Like try to stay away from processed foods, but like protein bars and like, you know what I mean? Like, and low cal ice cream are two like weaknesses of mine that I have a hard time like moving away from. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I mean, you know, like I like sweets, and I didn't eat sweets like the whole time I was overweight. I never ate donuts. I never ate ice cream. I never ate cake. I never had pie. Like I was like, no, I mean, it was all alcohol and pizza and Chinese food that made me overweight. So
booze
like,
and savory.
So I was really, I was like, I basically was always like, sweet is the path to the dark side. That's the path to diabetes. Like if I like, you know what I mean? I'm already probably pre-diabetic anyway. If I start like drinking soda a lot or eating ice cream or doing that stuff, I'm just going to explode in weight. And I'm also going to like, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to contract like, you know, type 2 diabetes. I'm
Right.
gonna,
You're gonna do some real irreversible damage.
Yeah. So I basically always stayed away from it. But now that I'm healthy, you know what I mean? Like my sweet tooth is dumb. You know, like I mean, it just skyrocketed.
But again, it's all about what you're doing, right? So if you have a lot of like high intensity activity, you're burning through the glucose. And it's totally fine, and that's damage control, right? So like one thing is I'm a foodie, right? I love my food as well, and I have damage control tactics. Like one thing that is kind of growing in popularity, and I'm glad it is fasting. And the power of fasting is insane as far as like healing the body and undoing. It's like the undo button. As far as like, if you have a binge day followed by a fast day, that actually might be very beneficial, especially if you've been at a caloric deficit for a while, because then your leptin and ghrelin levels go up, and then like your metabolism is fired up again. And then when you fast the day after you feast, you just burn through a ton of fat. Especially if you train before that feast, then most of that is going to go to muscle, and then you're not going to really put on any fat because you give your body a chance to use what you ate. So I tell people, like I train people, right? And like if they...
What are your certs like?
What was that?
What are your certs like? What certifications do you have?
Well, I have like an ACE cert, and like the health coach one. And then I kind of did a lot of independent research on, how artists could benefit from all of this stuff, right? And so I kind of like put myself in that category, artist health coach, right? And this is research for me too, I'm interviewing people and just trying to kind of gain a lot of insight into, what people are doing on tour and things like that in that context. And I'll have some questions about that. You kind of go loose on tour, right? You eat more whatever is available, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I also like, the thing I do on tour, the way that I utilize tour is I train at different gyms with different coaches, and so I learn technique on tour.
Oh, cool.
So like basically like I treat tours like rested training periods. You know what I mean? Like, so where like my body isn't like stressed from overtraining at all. You know what I mean? Like I go into classes fresh, you know what I mean? Like with like at least fewer injuries.
Right.
And like, and feeling much more like, you know what I mean? Like together, you know what I mean?
That's
like
cool.
My cardio will be a little bit less, you know what I mean? Like than it would normally be like while I'm, like in full, training mode. But yeah, I basically like, I use like when I'm on tour to stop in and learn new things and like pick up tips and, cause I'm also like, I'm a Muay Thai coach at my gym. And so like I use those opportunities to go in and like learn new teaching techniques and new, like just new striking techniques in general, different ways that like, like this delineation, like likes to throw a round kick. I mean, there's just like so many different ways that you can do different things, and like people always show me something new that works for me,
right?
Like where I'm like, of course also sometimes a coach will show me something and I'm like, that's horseshit, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like or whatever.
Sure.
Not all the time, you know what I mean? Like, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But usually like after every coaching session with any coach like that I've never worked with before, I walk out of that place going like, oh man, I hadn't thought about throwing the elbow like that, or I haven't, you know what I mean? Like this is like,
you just
know what I mean?
refine
Like,
your
oh,
technique.
how interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Like interesting. These knees, if I do this like this way, you know what I mean? Like I get like a little bit more out of it, or you know what I mean? Like just like, little bits and bobs that like you pick up, like from different people, because the thing about martial arts, and this is also true with like all forms of exercise, is that like not every technique for every exercise is going to work for every single person. And you really have to like be in touch with, like if you're a coach, you have to be in touch with who you're talking to. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you want a student to respond to something, you have to figure out how to talk to them about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's like you can't talk to every single student You know what I mean? Like the same way that, you know what I mean? Like you would even talk to yourself.
Right.
You know, like it's like I teach like a women's kickboxing class, and it's like, you know, I don't talk about things the way that, like, for example, like the main coaches at my gym talk about things, you know what I mean? Like in the main classes where they talk about like devastating blows and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like I talk about things differently. It's not that I don't talk about how you can damage someone and how it's great for self-defense and, you know, like whatever, but I change the way that I speak about it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you have to adjust.
Like, yeah. And then if I'm doing a one-on-one, a private lesson with somebody, I talk to them about like what sort of activities they like, what their background's like. If they're a dancer, I use dancing, you know what I mean? Like, you know, terms for them to reference in order for them to understand better, like what it is that the movement that I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you got to be a dynamic speaker. Like, a dynamic teacher.
And not just a dynamic speaker, but like the capacity to relate to the human being that's in front of you.
Yeah.
And how do you relate to a person that's in front of you? You ask them questions.
Yes.
You find out about what they like. You know what I mean? Like you see what kind of mannerisms they have and where they came from, and you know what I mean? Like, and that's like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's, I think the best way that you can be a good coach is to like literally tailor what you do for every single student that you talk to.
That's exactly
as much as
what
possible.
So I've been teaching guitar for 16 years, and that's one thing that I really kind of stress, like, you know, just that setting goals with people and just really hearing them out, and because every person's journey is unique, you know. Yep. And you got to get to know who they are. And again, use analogies related to, you know, what they're about and what they know. And so I totally agree. I'm interested in like the very kind of down to earth, practical aspects about like your training while you're on tour. So like when you're like, what does that look like schedule wise? You wake up, how does that go? What does your day look like?
I mean, it really depends. If I am going to train at a gym, then one of two things is going to happen. Either they have a morning class, you know, like, or they have a noon class and the drive isn't that far to the next show. Or we wake up a bit early and I go to an afternoon class or an early evening class. You know, like sometimes if I'm going to train on tour, if there's a gym I just have to get to, I look and see like what time our get-in time is and our sound check time and what time they have classes, you know what I mean? And I see like if it'll work or not with the schedule. If it's not going to work with the schedule, a lot of the time I'll get a hold of the club, you know, like, or I'll have my manager get a hold of the club, find out like if it's possible to move the sound check up or like back. You know what I mean? Like depending on what I want to do. And then usually my band, they're very supportive of me, like staying on top of, you know, like my fitness goals and stuff like that.
That's helpful.
And also, well, one of my bandmates, he has a Planet Fitness, like, you know, the Black Card membership. So like we'll drop in and lift weights and like, you know, do cardio and stuff like that. You know, like together in the mornings, you know what I mean? Like just generally especially if I'm not going to be able to drop in at like a actual like Muay Thai gym.
Sure.
So basically, like they're willing to wake up early so we can drive and, you know what I mean? Like, and get there early so that I can train at this gym. That's an important gym for me. I'm like, you know, it's like, okay, this is my like 8 Limbs Academy in Philadelphia. Charlie Catone's like my favorite, you know, like, you know, American kickboxing coach and like, you know, Muay Thai coach specifically. And like the gym is like amazing. It's like, you know, like it's just such an inclusive, you know, beautiful environment. There's a lot of people of color, like queer people, trans people, like that are there that are like, you know, like the first question when you walk into admission is like, what are your preferred pronouns? You know what I mean? Like they're just like a very, very like open-minded, intelligent gym. And like, it's so positive there. And they have amazing fighters. You know, like their technique is fantastic. And Charlie happens to be like a musical peer of mine from like the 90s and 2000s. Like I used to sleep on his floor and play DIY shows in his basement. You know what I mean? Like, so it just happens that this dude that I'm connected to, you know what I mean? Like happened to also open like my favorite gym in the United States that I've been to so far. You know what I mean? Like, so if I'm going to be in Philly, I'm going to train once or twice. Charlie Catone. Yeah. and so he doesn't really tour and play in bands as much anymore, but he's incredible Muay Thai coach.
That's
Him and his
awesome.
wife Kate are just Adlam's Academy is like it's like the gym of my heart. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just such a fantastic gym. Then like, I'm gonna tell my guys, I'm like, we're going to Philly. We're gonna get in early, and in the morning, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna leave a little late. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm gonna drop in. You know, I'm gonna hang out, and I'm gonna train. Like, and they get it. You know what I mean? Like, then there's other places that I've been following on Instagram that I want to check out. You know what I mean? Like, and like I'll always write them a message, and I'm like, hey, I'm Austin. What's up? Like, I've been training for this long. These are the gyms that I train at. You know what I mean? Like, I would like, to come in, and, they're always like, hell yeah, come on. And like, I go in and, we hang out, we have a nice Muay Thai party, and, like it's, generally speaking, a really, really good experience. The only time I have kind of crappy experiences is like every once in a while I'll drop in like at like an MMA gym, you know what I mean? Like that, like doesn't really focus on Muay Thai and is a little bit more broy, like, and then every once in a while, not that anything against MMA gyms, like my home gym is an MMA gym, you know what I mean? Like our BJJ team is like fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Like it's like a really great program. But like some of them are very hyper, you know what I mean? Like kind of masculine and dumb. There's a lot of like, like really like, hyper violent, tough guys. You know what I mean? Like flexing. It's like the same thing. Like when you go to a lot of gyms and you see the guys that are just like,
you
know what I mean? Yeah. They're just like, like they make it sort of an uncomfortable environment for, you know what I mean? Like the other people who are there. And, it's like, I mean, I'm not, I think that there are different types of gyms for different types of people.
That's true.
And like, not every fit is, like right for every person.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that those people have their places, like that they get to go to, but those places aren't always necessarily my place. You know, like it's like, I like more inclusive, like gyms that are really friendly and like, have people that if you're going to spar, you know what I mean? Like they're going to do it like in a, like, respectful way. They're not trying to destroy you.
Yeah.
Like they don't feel like they have to prove, you know what I mean? Like something, you know what I mean? Like about their gym, you know what I mean? Like to this person who's just shown up, you know what I mean? Like, like,
well, speaking about,
like they don't treat they don't treat sparring like a fight.
Right. Speaking about getting destroyed.
Not a fight.
Right. It's you should respect each other in that way. Speaking about getting destroyed. So has there been a time when you kind of like, you crossed a line where it kind of affected your performance that night or?
No, not really. I mean, when I was in Philly this last time, I was sparring with Charlie and he had a knee that snuck through my guard and like actually I got cut, here. And like, I was like bleeding and I showered and then I went to play the show. It was fine.
Oh, okay.
So I've yet to have like any injuries, knock on wood, that have like set me out or messed me up that night.
Do you ever think about that? Like kind of like you getting hit in the head too much and that kind of thing?
I mean, that's why I keep my hands up, Yeah. I don't know. Like, I mean, I had a fight 2 weeks ago and the dude was like a really, really like, very scrappy, heavy boxer, and he hit me harder than I'd ever been hit before in my life. Wow. And like, after the first round, I like looked at my like corner and I was like, hey, he just hit me harder than I've ever been hit before. I'm not saying I'm not in this fight, but if it looks bad, just call it. I was like, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm not making any money here. You know what I mean? Like, so if he starts to fuck me up, I don't care. Throw in the towel. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like, I'm worried about it. Yeah. Like if you're like, I'm worried about Austin, just get it out. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's like, I feel like I've got a lot of heart. I like to fight. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like I like the competition. I love consensual violence. I think consensual violence is like a very healthy thing in my opinion. I've like a lot of, I'm a pacifist. Like I don't believe in violence as like a tool that is above all the better tool. You know what I mean? Like, but I do also see that it's a tool,
right?
Especially in the realms of consensual, you know what I mean? Like contested, violence, you know what I mean? Like between two people who are in the same sport, you know what I mean? Like there's a very beneficial thing in it that happens. And there's a lot of like, you know, I think really good could be, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying every person needs to have consensual fights, you know what I mean? Like, but there are certain people, and I'd be one of them, you know, like who needs that kind of outlet, who's benefited from that outlet, you know, like, and I think that like it's done amazing things for my confidence, you know, like it's done amazing things for my health, you know what I mean? Like maybe one day it'll do things that are bad for my health, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that remains to be seen. But I'm at the point right now, it's like, you know, I live most of my life as like a lazy, overweight person. So I don't have any like old injuries that are like, you know what I mean, flaring up that are messing me up. Like whatever injuries I have right now are injuries I have now. And I'm an adult. So I'm like, well, maybe I should take it easy on that. You know what I mean? Like not the same as like when I was a kid, you know, like where I just like, fuck it, who cares?
Right.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's something that, you know, you can't be stupid about it. You know, you just, you realize like you're having fun doing it, you know, and it's very helpful to you. There is a danger, right? But you're, you know, like you said, like, listen, call this fight if you have to, right? Like, just like you have the competitive spirit, but also you're not going to let it sort of destroy you completely, you know? And,
yeah.
And I'm sure.
I mean, like an amateur fight is not the end all be all of my life. Like I don't need to like, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do my best to knock the fuck out of the guy. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not going to like stay in there if I like look hurt, like. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like,
now you're a guitar player, right? So,
that's right.
And do you ever kind of damage your hands in a way, or kind of think about like, you know, like this can
early on.
I
mean, early on before I learned how to punch properly.
Yeah.
But you know, I learned how to rap well.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, I wrap my hands in a specific way that like puts a lot of front end padding here. You know what I mean? Like, and brings my thumb down.
Yes.
You know, like, and out of the way. And like, I wear 16-ounce gloves when I spar. You know what I mean? Like, and do most pad and bag work. You know what I mean? Like, my gloves are, you know, like, they're really nice, and you know what I mean? Like, I know how to throw punches well. You know, like. So I don't worry about it as much as I used to. Right. I've definitely like I had moments like, or I had like, you know, times in my training, especially early on, where it felt like I might have like some amount of like, you know, I had a lot of stress in my hands, like, and I would get a bit concerned, you know, like about it. But as I became a better puncher, you know what I mean? Like I just, you know, that kind of fell away.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me the same question. I do a little bit of powerlifting, and it's just like, oh, you're messing up your hands, or you know, kind of callousing them in a negative way that'll affect your playing, you know. And I play progressive metal, so it's just like very technical stuff. And you know, like what you said, right? If you get your technique good and you use proper gear correctly, you know, then you should be fine. I think it's. I think Stu Ham, the bass player, or am I? No, not Stu Ham. Forgot who it is, but he boxes, and I should get him on the show. And people ask him similar questions, but I think that's what it comes down to. It's just like, if you're going to do this, you got to do it right, and you know, and it'll have more benefit than detriment at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I try to tell my students all the time. You know, like, I'm just like, learn to do it right.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you feel like you're not getting enough of a workout and like you want it to be more intense, go to a cardio kickboxing class.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you want to really, 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 like, I mean, Muay Thai is probably one of the most intense cardio workouts that you're ever going to get in your entire life. But it's like, you've got to walk before you run. And I'm not just going to like sit there watching a student throwing something wrong over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Like without stopping and being like, hey, think about doing it like this. You know, like I'll let them do a couple more. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to like stop them every time they throw a kick wrong. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like they need to get that feel and they need to like be thinking about it, you know, like as they go. But I am going to tweak, you know what I mean? Like their technique slowly but surely as I'm like, hey, all right, now think about this. All right. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's hard. Right. You know what I mean? Like, think about this. Think about this. All right. So think about driving your shoulder forward. You know what I mean? Like, and like pivoting on your rear foot. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, get that rotation. Look at how I'm all the way like this. Try to be like this. You know what I mean? Like, I just like try to give them that, like, you know, positive reinforcement. And then I let them do it a few times. If they're doing it really badly in a way that's going to damage them, I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, stop, you know, like, but like I've seen cardio kickboxing classes where the instructor is throwing a kick in a way that like I would stop them and be like, dude, you're going to hurt yourself. And they're showing people to kick like that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, and that's not what I'm about. Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to show you how to do this right. Like, let's do this right so that you won't hurt yourself. Because if you learn how to do this right, not only will you not hurt yourself, but you're going to gain muscle groups and all these places that'll make it so that you'll have an even harder time hurting yourself moving around in general. Right. You know what I mean? Like, as you go, you know, like.
Yeah, one thing I'm interested in is the fact that, like, you know, you went from being overweight to getting into, you know, into training and into Muay Thai eventually, and then into teaching it, right? And I think that the progression into showing others or empowering others is the ultimate service to yourself as well, because, you know, once you're helping someone else with it, you have to be the master of it.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily, I mean, you know, coaching isn't necessarily about being a master. Like, I feel like Muay Thai, or not Muay Thai, but martial arts, you know, like if you get to the point where you can show things well, you know what I mean? Like, then like you can teach people. Yeah. You know, like if you get to the point where you think that you've mastered shit, you're an idiot and you don't know. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, you know, it's like I'm every single day, like, you know what I mean? Like just trying to be better.
Right. But I'm just saying staying accountable to the whole thing. Once you're showing other people, then it's just like, okay, now you have to live up to what that means, you know, as far as like, you know, you have to stay on top of it yourself. So that's what I mean to say. I mean, just progressing to teaching, you know, just even in music, for example, right? Helping other people ascend through the ranks, you know, like as a guitar player, nothing has made me a better player than teaching others. You know?
I believe that.
Right. You know, and even in the context of like, if somebody's in school, if you don't understand a topic well, right, get some basic understanding and start to explain it to other people, and you're going to put it in the part of your brain that puts it into permanent memory and actually keeps it like, you know, in tip-top shape. So
that's true. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So like at what point did you decide, oh, you know what, I'm getting pretty good at this, I can probably help some other people with this? Is it like part of the process, or?
I think that I started way before I should have. Like I was just trying to get friends into it with me.
Yeah.
I've had a really hard time getting my pals, like, you know what I mean? Like I have had in the past. Now I don't have that problem. A lot of my friends are coming to me and like getting into it, but like it took a while, you know, like, but like early on I was like, I love this. I want you to love this. You know what I mean? Like, get together with me. Let's hang out. Let's throw some punches. You're always talking about how you want to like be good at boxing. Like, let's do it, you know, like, and like, it's good to be, you know, like guy. They didn't, and like, they didn't want to like go to the gym with me to my gym, cause they didn't want to pay the money, or they didn't want to be around like, you know, like, MMA guys or whatever. And so I was like, well, just, you know, like, I've got a gym in my basement. Like, let's get together. You know what I mean? Like, and so we just, you know, start doing stuff, and I had to really think analytically about like how I was teaching people. And then I realized that like at some point that like, you know, I liked teaching, you know, like, and that I had a really good time and that people responded well, you know what I mean? Like to teaching and to my teaching, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, how can I become a better teacher? And I was like, train harder, go places that know things, like where people know things, learn, pay attention, you know what I mean? Like, and, you know, like take fights, you know, like that was like basically, you know, like my decision. And I was like, cause I'm 40, like I don't expect to be a professional fighter ever. You know what I mean? Like I'm a professional musician. That's what I do. That's how I make my living. I love my occupation. It's fantastic. You know what I mean? Like Muay Thai is an extended, serious hobby for me. You know what I mean? Like it's a thing that I love. I could see myself opening a gym, you know what I mean? Like, and being a head coach and like making a living off of it. But really, like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like the situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to be able to pass on the positive things that I got from it. And I don't expect to like go anywhere. I take it very seriously. I don't expect to like become a champion. You know what I mean? Like I do hope that one day maybe someone in the world will like call me up and be like, dude, thank you so much for introducing me to this. You know what I mean? Like it really, really helped me. And if that means just like, you know what I mean? Like you changed my perspective and my world was improved by like you giving this to me, the like fire and the love, you know what I mean? Or if it's like, you know what I mean? Like they become a fucking world champion and they do it, you know what I mean? Like, and I get to be their first coach that they like, you know what I mean? Like they learn from. It's like if any of those things or somebody that I even just worked with and like, you know, instilled the positivity and like this love, you know, for a thing, it's like, that's all I care about because it's given me so much, you know, like, and that's like, that's how I feel about music too. You know, like I'm always trying to help out other artists and like give them advice and talk to them about stuff. And you know what I mean? Like try to be a positive influence on them, you know, like, and you know, like to me, it's like, I'm in life for the hang, you know what I mean? Like, I don't consider, like, I know that I'm in two things that are arguably very competitive, but like, I don't look at them as, you know what I mean? Like being competitive from the angle that like, I feel like I have to be better than everyone else. I look at them from the angle that like, we should all be looking at each other and being like, how can I be better than myself?
Right.
You know, like, and that's like all I care about. And I want to hang out with people and be friends with people and get to know folks and like hear their stories and you know what I mean? Like, and that's the positive, what I'm in it for.
Sure. That's the positive side to competition. It's like, you know, the real competition is yourself yesterday, you know, just improving yourself. So if two people are competing, they're trying to be their best selves and they're pushing each other to do that. So that's a great thing. You know, I'm interested, how has, getting into all of this and kind of shifting your whole mindset affected how you approach writing music and making music?
I don't know if it affects the way that I write music and make music at all. I don't think it really,
even lyrically.
No, not really, not necessarily. I think that like it affects the way I perform. I'm a much more physical performer than I ever was before.
Right, so your stage presence is probably really got
different.
A boost.
Yeah. And you know, I'm much more confident. You know, like I really believe in myself. I feel like I can do pretty much anything. If I can like travel to Thailand for 6 weeks and like sweat my ass off, like you know what I mean, getting shouted at in a different language. You know what I mean, like around people who are less than half of my age. You know what I mean, like and like the top level athletes in their sport, you know what I mean? Like I can do anything. If I can get into a ring, you know what I mean? Like, and you know what I mean? Like, and fight, you know what I mean? Like some person that I've never met before, you know what I mean? Like, and not die, you know, doing it, then like, I can do pretty much anything.
Dude,
and
it's like so impressive. Like when I was over there, you know, I've been throughout Thailand and I, you know, spent a good amount of time there. And like when I was in like Go Gym in Chiang Mai, you know, and there's like, and it's like 100 degrees, right? And it's an open gym. There's no AC and people are just going at it, you know, and it's quite remarkable. You know, I the heart is you lose weight real quick if you're training in that kind of environment.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like, I mean, the first like week that I was there,
Mm-hmm.
the Ajahn, which is like the master,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like Ajahn Len, like he came up to me and he like he was just like grabbing the fat on my like he was just like like that to me. He was like just basically be like, "Fuck you, fatty," you know, like. And then like the last week, he's like slapping my belly, being like, "Yeah, good," you know, like because he was like. You know, he's like, "Look at you, you're fucking," you know, like
That's
you're
awesome.
ripped. He's like, "I did that to you." You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So
I love the culture, man. Like Thai people are great. You know, like they're just this. I love the spirit of it, and you know, and all of that, and the food. What did you primarily eat when you were over there? What was your go-to?
Everything,
right?
I had an
spicy?
interesting. Oh yeah. I mean, I impressed my coaches. Like, there was this one day I came in. They have like a barbecue after the evening like training session, after the afternoon training session every day, and like, you know, they just sit around and like cook shit and like drink and like bullshit or whatever. And you know, it's not like super fun for me because they don't speak English, most of them, or if they do, it's like very little.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like I'm just like sitting there, like hanging out with them, and like I walk up and I sit down and I'm like. They're like, eat. And I'm like, all right. So I'm like eating some food and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, my like coach, he's like, you know, eat. And I was like, why not? And he's like, you eat, you go to hospital. And I was like, I looked at it and I was like, there's no way that that's going to kill me like that.
Right.
And I just grabbed like a dollop of it and dumped it on my food and started eating it. And they were like, whoa. And they like got up and like, they were all excited and they went and started getting other shit and like bringing it out to like, you know what I mean? Like to give it to me, you know, like they were like, that dude, you're like, you can fucking eat spicy shit. And I was like, yes, I can. I am quite capable.
Like if you're in Thailand and you're not like when you're eating and if you're not at least sweating a little bit, like you're not doing it right.
No, that's right. Yeah, no. I had actually a thing like because I was training for my first fight and it ended up getting canceled. But I was training for my first fight while I was there and like I wasn't losing weight. And I wasn't eating enough. Like my body was in shock because I was training twice a day and I wasn't putting enough calories in, you know, like, and I knew that, but I also, you know what I mean? Like I was experiencing a psychological barrier and I wasn't like thinking about it. And like when the fight got canceled and I just switched over to eating everything I wanted to, I just dumped all the weight. Like I just like, it just literally fell off of me. Like, you know, like, and I was just like sitting there getting on the scale being like, I'm not losing weight, you know, like, and then when I was eating ice cream every day and like going out and like, you know what I mean? Like eating everything, like the sausages that are like grilling on the side of you know what I mean? Like the street and like stopping and getting 2 bowls of like noodle soup, you know what I mean? You know, like that was like one, like I just started like dumping weight cause I was just like, whatever. And like my body was like, yes, fuel. And they didn't give a shit. And like, it just like, I just dropped all of it. You know?
I mean, the food there, the nature of the food is pretty good because it's like, you know, all those noodles and stuff, they're all rice based, you know, and so that it's different than like, you know, like wheat noodles and whatnot.
And the portions are like way smaller.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I mean, it's
so cheap too. Oh my God.
Oh, I mean, it's very inexpensive. Yeah. You know, if you have American dollars, they go far.
Oh yeah,
no question.
Yeah. No, it's great. You know, I tell people like people ask me, oh, why do you go to Thailand? And then so it's like, well, I have many reasons, but one thing is like when I teach guitar online, and one guitar lesson buys me 38 meals. So it just, you know, So. And it goes a long way. No, but it's such a great place. Such a great place. I'm gonna be there October 17th. So
cool. Good for you.
5th time.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I want to try to go in the next 6 months, but we'll see. I'm not sure I'll fit in everything.
Where have you been? So you've been to
Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and like Phuket. Other places that I was at. Yeah.
What was your favorite? Where did you really dig?
Chiang Mai.
Yeah, Chiang Mai. Yeah, that's
Chiang Mai is my favorite.
Yeah. It's just such a cool vibe there.
It is, yeah.
You know,
No, I mean, like that's the only place that like I went and saw live music.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that like, you know, I saw the types of like I don't know. I mean, I've got friends that are in like the metal and the like hardcore and punk scenes there and stuff like that. And like I hung out with some of them, you know, like, but like I didn't like when I was in Bangkok, I mean, but I didn't really like see it, you know what I mean? Like just like on the street, like I had to like go places.
Right.
In Chiang Mai, like I could literally see like the touch of like subculture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was like, and that's what I liked about it is like it felt like the type of city that was being heavily influenced by like, you know what I mean? Like alternative lifestyles and music.
And you know, and like, it's not just in music, man. Like for example, like you could just see culture just leaking from at the seams. Like when I went there, I was eating keto, which is not an easy thing to do generally in Thailand because there's a lot of carbs around. But I discovered that they have 3 keto restaurant, literally like the keto supermarket / restaurants. And they made like all kinds of awesome stuff, and like we don't even have this here in New York, you know. Just like, you know, I went and I got keto ice cream and all these things, you know, just no problem. I didn't stay keto, but like
I think the ketosis is a scam, but that's just, you know what I mean.
Well,
like,
I think it has a place. I honestly, it's good to stabilize your insulin sensitivity. All right. So some people, especially people who are just kind of binging on the carbs and they don't have an outlet, you know, to use those carbs. People just need to kind of stabilize it. They need to become sensitive to insulin again.
Well, I mean, like, I'm not saying that like any diet is not a viable diet. You know what I mean? Like, but any diet that pretends like it's like got something that any other diet doesn't have is like bullshit. They all have.
Yeah, they all have benefits. Yeah.
But they all have the same premise, which is like is less calories in than out.
Well, I mean, with keto, it's interesting, but regardless of it, like it's just like, you know, in every diet, there's too many people that once it popularizes, that they capitalize on that, and then there's just all these. You're inundated with all this products and marketing around it. And so even if it has major benefits, it's still going to have like plenty. You still have to be educated and not like buy into the crap, you know. And you know, they'll have their place. Like the thing that I'm doing right now, it's actually a gradual. It's a program that I've done a few times. It's by it's called Man 2.0, Engineering the Alpha. But the idea is that it starts out with like kind of a ketosis thing, and it gradually goes to higher carbs. And after, like it's a hormonal optimization process, right? And so everything has its place, you know, and they're all just tools,
right?
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So Thailand's
great.
Fun.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's funny, in 10 years you didn't travel and then you just ended up in Southeast Asia.
No, I traveled all the time, but for work.
Right.
Yeah,
not
I mean, like, I
vacation.
travel all over the world, you know, like, but like only to play shows and go on tour.
Right.
So like I didn't go on vacation.
Right.
Like I staycation 100% of the time. You know what I mean? Like if I was like on vacation, I was laying in my bed at home.
Yeah, but because like, I mean, you already kind of did so much traveling for work that you just kind of want to be home, you know?
Yeah, I tour 6 to 8 months out of every year. Right. So
It's a lot. And like what you were saying before, like that you would just sort of let go for that time. So it's really good that you have this Muay Thai and just this discipline and this practice that you kind of take on when you're out there. And also you make it a very constructive experience, because some people they kind of burn the candle at both ends on tour, and this also kind of gives you something positive to do, and so you're not over partying and all of that, because you have you have other goals that you're sort of balancing.
Well, but the thing is that like touring is my job.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that like it's easy, like when you're on a bus tour, or like when you're like, you know, like young, especially, and like you don't have priorities, to get like really like into drugs and alcohol,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, and like those kinds of things. But like as you get older, you know, like it's like this is your job. Like when I go out on tour, like the only thing that's special about like, you know, me going on tour is like if I'm in New Orleans and I can only eat certain things when I'm in New Orleans, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm only going to get Cajun food while I'm in Louisiana.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I'm going to eat, you know what I mean? Like gumbo and a po' boy, you know what I mean? Like, that's like, you know, like that's what's up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but being on the road isn't vacation.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and like a lot of people treat it like a party, like a vacation. And like, I don't treat it like a vacation. I treat it like work because it's work.
Yeah.
You know, like I love it. I do go out for drinks with my friends sometimes. You know, every once in a while I'll party, but mostly like I'm there to play shows and like make my fans smile and you know what I mean? Like, and hug necks and like, you know what I mean? Like, and sell merch and you know what I mean? Like, that's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm there for.
Right.
You know, so I'm not going to let anything get in the way of that.
Right. No, that's important. I mean, like, honestly, like if you are too lax about it and like you're partying too much, then you're really doing a disservice to your fans because you're not being your best self ultimately in that circumstance and really putting your best foot forward, because putting on a good show that's work. And so, you know, it's awesome to prioritize that, you know, and keep the focus on really just giving. So that's awesome. And in that, like, as far as like selling merch and all that, let's kind of like change gears to that. There's like, if you as far as your career is concerned, you know, how has that changed, and what does that look like these days? Like, is touring like the primary revenue driver? Is there other kind of
touring is definitely my primary revenue stream.
Right. Okay, and then merch while you're out there.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I sell merch like online too, but you know, like it's not nearly like what I sell on the road. Yeah. And I have a apparel company that a friend of mine had just started called Youth Crew, and it's like basically a Muay Thai company that's like geared towards punks and metalheads that like, you know, Muay Thai.
Yeah.
But we just started our first design. Like we just released our first design 2 weeks ago. And like, you know, we're still just in the beginning stages, basically. Like we're using the first design to pay for the next two.
That's
you know
exciting.
What I mean? Like, and so that's like, you know, that's where we're at.
Yeah, and that lives kind of on its own, right? It's like it's
yeah.
I mean,
I bump it on my social media, but it's not like I'm talking about it every day.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, I mean, similar here. Like this right here, this is apparel for the thriving artist, right? So that's kind of like a brand it's self-explanatory, you know. You know, musicians who basically take care of themselves and all that. And I have like different mantras like this one, you know, that you know, people can identify with. So there's a lot of opportunities as far as creating alternate revenue streams, and it can go places, and it's not hard because of drop shipping and all of that to start these things. What else are you doing? Do you have any kind of subscription stuff? Like, what do you?
No, I don't really. I mean, I teach private lessons.
Okay.
You know, Muay Thai, and I mean that's really pretty much it. You know, like I have a brewery that makes a beer that's like inspired by one of my songs, and you know, like, and so I get a little bit of extra revenue from that, you know, like, but you know, mostly it's like it's really honestly like the bulk of my revenue is all from like getting out there and being in front of fans and singing for them and selling them t-shirts and LPs. You know, like that's it.
No, it's interesting. You have a beer. So like, how did that start? Like what?
I got a fan that's got a great brewery, and you know, like, and we became really good friends. And one day it was just like, hey, I want to make a beer after this, you know, song. And I was like, let's do it. Go for it. And I didn't expect him to give me any money for it. I was just like, cool. Cause I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm from like the DIY hardcore scene. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like if a pal like has an idea, I'm usually just like, yeah, that's cool. High five. Let's go. And then like, he was like, well, I'm going to give you some money. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm using your likeness. I'm like using your artistic, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like one of your songs as inspiration. And I was like, oh yeah, that does make sense. You know what I mean? Like, so he paid me for every beer, you know, like you know, a percentage of every beer. So
that's so cool.
That's it.
That's why it just like fell on your lap pretty much. That's
pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's a lot of opportunity these days. Like with, there's a lot of things popping up, you know, for artists to be entrepreneurial. And because some of us, don't tour as much, and or so, when you don't tour as much, who knows, like in the future, if you will tour a little bit less, for whatever reason, family or whatnot, then you'll have these things to fall back on, and you've already maybe built a good fan base that are bought into you and your message and what you do. Then you can sort of structure things around that. So selling, that's selling the merch online, the apparel, and all that, and that works well. And then there's obviously this Patreon. There's a whole bunch of different things like that. So
I know that like I have several revenue streams that like I could exploit. And one of the reasons why I don't is because I coach Muay Thai so much. And I don't make much money doing that. I mean, I make money for privates, but I don't make money at my gym when I coach, And
when you do your privates, you do them in person or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, but yeah, I basically like, I only do privates with people who live here or with fans on the road. Sometimes I'll meet up and do a private.
Interesting. Okay. Did they reach out to you for that? Do you like kind of?
Yeah, they reach out.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'll post like, hey, I'm, like available, like for privates. If you're interested, like just hit me up and let me know. And like, every once in a while somebody will write me and be like, hey, I'm really interested in like, like getting together and training with you. How much is it for a private? And usually I'm like, it's this, like, and they're like, wow, that's really, really cheap. Okay, cool. And usually I just do it as an excuse to like, get in and work out and make a new friend. I'm not like, I'm not a hyper capitalist. I make a living. I believe in making a living. Like, I believe that you should make a living doing the things that you put time into and energy into. But like, I am not a capitalist. Like I think I am not interested in like exploiting every single revenue stream, that I possibly can. I know that I should, like I've had business managers that have been like, hey, you should, take me on. I could do this and this and this for you. And I'm like, yeah, maybe one day, but right now I'm just, like I'm doing this and this, and I don't, like money is not my main driving motivator in general. I make a comfortable living, like touring and playing shows, and I own a home, and like, like, and I'm happy to be an artist, like, and, like get sync licensing every once in a while. And, I get some mailbox money and, like whatnot, like, but it's like, that's all part of being an artist, like I'm not, like I started an apparel company because I love Muay Thai and I want to have free gloves and free shorts eventually that look like what I want them to look like. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's a very self-serving, like sort of a thing. It's just like, I know how to make merch because I've been making merch my whole life. Like, and so like, it's pretty easy to just be like, I'm just going to do this. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm going to get it started over here. I've got friends who make this and this and this, and like an artist, and I'm, like I can do that. And, it's like, why are you doing that if you don't want to make a living off of it? And it's like, well, I would like to make money off of it, but I'm doing it because I want to have stuff that looks like that, because
you're scratching your own itch.
It's like that shit doesn't already exist. And if it does, it, like it's like already super niche. And like, there's a couple people who are doing it, but like, I want more of it. You know what I mean? Like, so, like I'm going to do it, like, and that's really what it's about. And overall, it's like, about having what I want and networking and like, becoming friends with people. Like,
that's exactly why I do this. That's exactly why I do this. It's scratching my own itch. I'd love to know this stuff you're telling me, and like, and learn about all these different ways that artists take care of themselves and approach business and all these things. And I'm learning. Right. And just as a, just because it's a public thing, then other people can benefit from it and get value from it as well. And then, and advertising money and all that can come in with time. But I'm loving the process all along, and it's giving me value ultimately. and I know it's giving other people value. People have, voiced that. So it's a beautiful thing that way. It's like, it's not approached with like, oh, I can make money doing this or whatever. It's just like, oh, this would be awesome, and I'm having a bunch of fun. And then it just kind of works out that way. I think that's ideal.
Yeah.
Ideal.
Definitely. I agree. I think that I know that there are lots of people out there that are more successful doing all sorts of things that I do. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I'm
how do you
totally
measure
comfortable
success?
with that. But what I mean is like, I'm talking about like monetary or like, you know what I mean? Like notoriety, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, but to me, it's just like, I know that nobody writes songs like I write. You know what I mean? Like, I know that nobody sings like I sing. You know what I mean? Like, people don't present their shit the way that I present it. So I have a thing. It's my thing.
Yeah.
It may not be for, you know what I mean, like millions of people, but I have fans. I've got thousands of fans all over the world. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's my thing, and I'm totally fucking comfortable with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I started a, you know what I mean? Like an athletics company because like I have a thing that's my thing, and I want, you know what I mean? Like, to have that. I want other people who will respond to that to be able to have that. You know what I mean? Like,
share. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, and I want to share it. Like, I know that there are marketing strategies for all sorts of shit that could be better than like, you know, like what it is that I do, you know what I mean? Like, and yield higher revenue gains. But like, you know, like I just, you know, like I feel like, you know, if you've got food and you're happy, you know what I mean? Like, then like you've won. You know what I mean? Like, you're successful. You got a roof over your head, and you're like, you know, smiling more often than not. You know what I mean? Like, then, you know what I mean? Like,
you can very easily be unhappy chasing the carrot. You're happy where you're at. You know, you're making your living doing what you love to do, and it's all good. And it's like the only reason for additional growth would be to help more, to leverage. So you can further help or empower more people with what you're doing, you know, rather than kind of like, you know, upgrading your lifestyle when you don't really need more, right? So so that's the only kind of circumstance, the only reason why I see like why you would like grow further, you know, beyond that, you know. Or like, you know, just so you can spend more time doing those things that might not be as profitable in the short term. So then it's good to have some money aside so you can have like periods of time where you can kind of invest.
That's
into
true. But you know, like, but I also like, I'm already spending like, you know what I mean? Like almost every waking moment doing the things that I love to do, which is like some facet of making music, you know what I mean? Like some facet of like, of Muay Thai, you know what I mean? Like, and spending time with my friends and the people I love. And you know what I mean? Like, and that's like, I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I couldn't hope for more, you know what I mean? Like, and like, like it would be great to have a little bit more money in the bank, like as like a pad, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, you know, like I find that things generally work out, you know what I mean? Like, and that like, if I keep on working and I keep on staying positive, things generally turn out all right. You know what I mean? Like, and they may not turn out great in the short term. Sometimes things suck. There are lean times. You know what I mean? Like, there are hard times, but overall, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a human being. Being a human's not easy, you know, like, and like, you know, I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that, like, whatever problem that it is that I have, I'm going to have some other problem, you know what I mean? Like, if I, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like if I circumnavigate whatever it is that's my issue right now, you know, like, so, you know, I would rather just, you know, enjoy my life and have a good time. And if for some reason a windfall happens, that's cool. But you know what I mean? Like, for me, it's about making art and like helping my community and expanding my community and like, you know what I mean? Like, and having a positive influence on human beings, you know, like, so that's it.
You don't want to step outside of like, you know, being true to yourself and being true to your values. So and you seem to be, staying in line with that. Now, when as far as like relationships are concerned, you when you're traveling, you keep up with your girlfriend and family. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to my mom. Like we text at least, every other day, and talk on the phone probably at least every week. My partner is a little bit harder because she lives in Germany primarily, and like she's here right now for the next 3 months, but she lives in Germany primarily, and so sometimes when I'm on the road in the U.S., like our time zones are different. So like when I'm gonna have Wi-Fi access and be able to like to like Skype her or whatever is going to be like, like different than when she is free. So we can sometimes have a hard time, but we text every day, like lots. So, know, but I'm also like, I don't believe in like constant contact. I don't think it's healthy. Like people who are obsessed with the idea of like, like being in contact with their partner every second of every day or like all the time. Like, I'm not going to try to like make you feel bad for that being your thing, but that's not my thing. You know what I mean? Like, and it's never worked out, like between me and anybody who felt like that was a necessary,
interesting,
you know what I mean? Like thing to have. I like to be where I'm at, like in the moment. Of course, sometimes I live in my telephone too much because I'm working,
right.
But in general, like I would rather sit in a room with like two, like with a husband and wife, they're my pals that I haven't seen in forever, you know what I mean? Like, and like talk to them about, like whatever we've both all been up to for the last like year since the last time we got to sit and talk to each other, you know what I mean? Then I would like be like, excuse me, I'm sorry, and go into the other room and like call up my girlfriend, you know what I mean? Like, and like that doesn't mean that I don't still think it's important to find time, like, cause you have to, like, if you're going to have a relationship, you have to invest, like into that relationship. But like I am not going to like sacrifice, my other relationships, know, like with somebody that I'm only going to see like once or twice a year, you know what I mean? Like based, you know what I mean? Like to talk to the person that I talk to every day already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you don't like stay like super like you allow some distance, and that's healthy. And what that's an interesting topic. I recently read a book called Attached, right? And I've sort of mentioned this recently, but like the in this book it talked about 3 different attachment styles, and some people do need a much more frequent contact, and some people prefer less. And some people are sort of in between, but your partner's probably not the anxious type where she's like, needs that daily dose, right? And that's important. She's more secure, I'm sure. I
think I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, and conversely, it's like, like I'm not a jealous person. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I don't feel any amount of ownership, you know what I mean? Like over the person that I'm with, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're my partner, and if, you know what I mean? Like, and if our partnership works, it's going to work because, you know what I mean? Like we work well together, like, and one of those things about us working well together is going to be that like, like they understand that I can't talk all the time.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I've had partners before where like I was literally tracking in a studio and they're like texting me and I'm not responding. So they call me, you know what I mean? Like, and then I don't pick up because I'm tracking in a studio.
Yeah.
And then I finally get to look at my phone, like after like a couple of takes or whatever. And like, I look at it and there's like, you know what I mean? Like just like a novel about how much of a piece of shit I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's the anxious type. Yeah.
I'm just like, dude, like, no, that's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm not saying that person's a bad person because of that, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, it's just not me. It's not for me.
They have needs that aren't aligned with what you are willing to offer.
Exactly.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, in that book, it would be like, that's the anxious type, and they're often a very loving type or whatever, but they need that constant contact daily. And if they don't, they get very anxious. They're preoccupied with thinking about relationship all the time, and like they're very they're just not secure in that way, right? And then there's the opposite. There's the super avoidant type, right? Which whenever you get close to them, they run away. And they create distance, and so anything to like the book's like anything to get you more secure is a good thing, So but communication just is important in that, like, communicating about how to communicate, so it's like knowing that, like, you're on tour, you can't be there, and it's just understanding, and then the person can like, even if they have a tendency to want to communicate more often, there's also that understanding that other person's busy, and they care about you, and they can, there's trust there, and that's a very important thing. I've had conversations on the show about musicians, and all different kinds of relationships as far as like how they maintain it while they're touring, because touring, just being someone who works and travel is involved a lot of that work. If they have a stable relationship, it needs to be one predicated on security and trust, and then there's just a real there's a real bond there that needs to kind of be maintained in that way. But it's just that understanding. Is that like Casey Grillo, drummer of I'm blanking right now. Well, he was in my second episode. Why am I not thinking of this? Anyway, the point is, his wife painted the house while he was on tour. It's just like she was productive, and she's very, like, she holds stuff down. So that's like oftentimes, like, if you're going to have a partner, that's a permanent partner as a musician who travels a lot, it needs to be somebody who just like can handle stuff, that doesn't need you to be there at every step.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that it's helpful to be with someone who like doesn't need you to be there. Like, that doesn't need you in the way that, like, traditionally I think people think about needing people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like I feel like if you're with someone and it's going to work, it's going to be because you and them like the way that your lives work together and look together. You know what I mean? Like, but they don't need you at every single second because they have their own shit going on. Huh. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I think that, like, if you're a musician and you're with someone who's super anxious and, like, you know what I mean? Like, and who is like very, very, codependent, it's probably not going to work.
Right.
Or you're going to get off the road.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be with that person, because if you love them, it's your fucking decision.
Sure.
Like, but as I've gotten older and like I've learned more about myself and what kind of relationship I really want, I've learned that, like, I need, like, to be with somebody who, like, has their own shit. You know what I mean? Like, who has a life and has, like, their own goals, and they have things that they're working towards. Yeah. And you can work towards things together as a unit, but you don't need to, you know what I mean? Like, they don't need you, like, there to fulfill all of, you know what I mean? Like, their goals. Yeah. Like, it's like you make things better because you mutually make things better being in each other's lives, but it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not searching for a person to make their life better. Yeah. They just find somebody who, you know what I mean? Like, complements their existence.
Sure.
You've got to find that.
Yeah. They're whole in and of themselves, and then you just add on to that.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I remember in some relationship advice or some book or something, it was like, people think that a relationship is 50-50. No, it needs to be 100-100. Or just like, you are fully fine on your own, and then it's your love spills over onto the other person. It's like you have a full cup and it's just pouring over to the to others, to where you don't need that, like, you don't need it to complete you. Yeah, no, that's very important. But another thing is like, if the person does need more contact, sometimes, the person works in a capacity that they could travel, and then they can actually just travel with the person and just come on the tour,
Yeah. Or, sometimes you find people who have partners that have like made a place in their operation, and that works a lot as well. I found, like if you find somebody who like sees a thing that you need, you know what I mean? Like, and they have the time to be there and they can be beneficial to the overall operation and not detrimental to the operation. You know what I mean? Like, then that can also work, but like that requires a lot of selflessness, because like sometimes a person who's in a relationship, like when you're on the road, you have to realize that everyone's got a job to do and you can't let, you know what I mean? Like, your relationship with the person that you're in the relationship with, that maybe is the reason why you're there in the first place, get in the way of the job that you have to do, like while you're on that tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, I've had many, many times where I was on the road, like I had a partner on tour with me or flew with me to a festival or whatever. And we were busy the whole time. And then all of a sudden they were like, when are we going to do something I want to do? And it's like, dude, like we're only here, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm working,
right.
I would love to fuck off from this festival and go do the thing that you want to do. But like, I can't, I'm here and this is why I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, and you came here because you wanted to be with me, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't your vacation. You know what I mean? Like, this is my job that you're, you know what I mean? Like, that you're along with me at right now.
Yeah, that needs to be an understanding. I think that needs to be communicated from the get-go, like if it's not clear,
Yeah. Sometimes it's harder to communicate that, to actually have it
yes.
set in than it is to just actually say it and communicate it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because people, anyway, I probably have to go. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's okay. It's been great. Let me ask you one final question. Like, what would you? First, like, what's your long-term goal for your career?
I don't know. I mean, I would like to be playing in theaters eventually. And I mean, I'll take my career wherever it goes. You know what I mean? Like, just go with the flow. Yeah, like I would love it if I were a theater artist. I would like to play churches, acoustically perfect rooms. You know what I mean? Like, would be like the thing I would most like to be in, that's basically it. Like, I just like singing for people and I want to keep singing for people.
Sure.
And, like, I have a good fan base now. If it gets bigger, awesome. You know what I mean? Like, and
do you see the Muay Thai thing going in a specific direction?
I don't know. I think that the athletics company possibly, could go, in several directions. I think that Muay Thai is a hobby.
Yeah.
I think that, I could open a gym, if I wanted to,
sure.
Somewhere, and if I needed to get off the road, and if I wanted to open up a for-profit gym, then I could, I could do that. But, I'm not particularly, concerned about that right now. I mean,
sure.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I would like to have more Muay Thai in my city, in my community. And I would like to have, a community gym right now. I'm really interested in doing outreach with different community organizations, LGBTQ, people who I feel really could benefit for the type of training that, that I can provide, and activists and stuff like that, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But I'm not really interested right now in a for-profit gym.
Sure.
Sure. I'm more interested in helping to coach people who are marginalized and who are at risk, and especially like in a small town that is a very progressive town in Indiana, but is in Indiana. You know, like, I mean, there's a lot of scary things happening to people who are people of color and who are young, queer people and stuff like that. And I would like to help to empower those people more than anybody.
Right.
Because like they are some of the most at-risk human beings, like in our society.
Sure.
So, like, I mean, if you see like, the types of like attacks, like, the murder rates, you know what I mean? Like for trans people, you know what I mean? Like if you see like, like suicide rates, you know what I mean? Like this type of training, in my opinion, you know what I mean? Like could be very, very beneficial. And I've seen it, and I myself, like would like to be a fantastic ally to those people and like, and help, you know what I mean? Like in that capacity. Yeah. So that's a thing that's very important to me.
Yeah. I can see that being a progression, in the future, as far as, maybe you'll take that in that direction to really empower that community. That's really cool. That's really cool. If you had one message for all musicians, what would it be?
For all musicians?
Yes.
I don't know. Try harder.
Try harder. I like it. It's simple. I mean, like, but it's effective because it's like, a lot of, people are just not, they're not putting in their all,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like,
that's, I mean, if you're a songwriter, try harder. If you're a guitar player, try harder.
Yeah.
If you're a drummer, try harder. If you're a sax player, try harder. If you're a music manager, try harder. You know what I mean? Like nothing's worth doing if you're not doing it to the best of your ability, and you can't be better at it unless you do it more often.
Right. And you live in regret, like, knowing that you could have done better.
Yeah. And also, if you think that you're great, if you think you don't have anything else to learn, you need to try harder.
Right.
Even more than anybody else.
Sure. Sure.
The other one I would say is stay hungry. That would be the other,
Yeah.
That's my other.
Yeah. Word. Awesome, dude. It's been awesome having you on, Austin.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. It's been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Austin Lucas. I'll see you soon. Yeah, until next time. See you.
Yeah, be well. Thanks for having me.